In the Wahls Protocol book, you emphasize eating all the colors of the rainbow. And I was wondering why you recommend that.
Colors are the pigment in a plant that gives it its color. Is a good proxy for various types of antioxidants or polyphenols. And these compounds speak to our genes and help turn some genes on, making them active, and other genes off, making them inactive. And you want to have the correct genes on and the correct genes silent. The polyphenols are a good part of making sure that that happens. Yeah, and because I like to have a great deal of variety, I encourage people to see to it they have at least 3 different colors every day. And preferably, you want to have, if you can, 200 different species of plants that you consume in the year's time. So I'm a big believer in diversity in our lives and in our diet.
I could grow 200 species. That would be fun.
Yeah, it's actually tremendous fun. Once you start tracking that, then I'm like, oh my God, I'm only up to 100. I gotta start thinking more about different spices, different teas, so I can amp up the diversity.
Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. That is. Since reading your book, my mission has been to eat the recommended 3 cups of greens a day. And our complex here, we're organic farmers. We produce 17,000 bags of greens a year that we sell. And I wasn't eating my greens because they were so bitter. I couldn't get them down. And then when I started cooking them in the coconut oil, like you recommended, it's like I can eat them all. I was so excited. And so what I did is I started bringing home that many greens and stuffing them in my fridge because, they're growing all around my house and in my greenhouses. But to go out and pick them takes time. And I've been faithfully doing it now for, 3 weeks. And it's been an incredible change for me. So my question is, how do you manage to eat 3 cups of greens, or what would you recommend for people?
Well, you want to work with your family so that your family's having fun with it. And so there are a couple of ways. Kale chips were a huge hit. And so I'd make kale chips and would have a bowl of those around. That was a pretty easy way to get lots of greens in. Some people do well with green smoothies where you have greens with some fruit. The favorite of my family right now is bacon and greens. So fry up a couple pieces of bacon. Or you could use coconut oil and saute, say, some onions or mushrooms with that. And then add the greens and stir them just enough to have them wilted. So if you're doing dandelion greens, it's probably a minute, maybe 2 at most. If you're doing kale, because that's a heartier, thicker, more robust green, then that might be 3 minutes. But you don't need them more than just wilted. And I explain in my classes that saturated fats in particular, although they will help neutralize the pH, bring that alkaline, which is a higher pH, down to a more neutral value, and that will cut out the bitterness. So and if it still seems a little bit bitter, then add just a little bit of lime juice or lemon juice. Add just enough to cut out the bitterness. And that will make cooked greens much more acceptable for your family and your kids who are much more sensitized to the bitter taste. And that's why our grandmothers knew to always put butter over vegetables, because the fat lowers the alkaline, lowers the pH, takes away the alkalinity, and really gets rid of the bitterness. So coconut oil will do that. Bacon fat will do that. Clarified butter will do that.
I was a little skeptical, but I brought home a bag of kale anyways. I'm like, okay, Dr. Wahls says it is. I'm going to do it. And I cooked it, and I ate it, and been eating it ever since. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and actually I'd say cooked greens are my kids' favorite vegetables. And who would have thought? But we even really enjoy dandelion greens, which of course are very bitter. Mustard greens, kale is very bitter, but if you cook it up with a little bit of bacon or the coconut oil, it's very, very pleasant. And if it's still seeming bitter, you just need to add more fat.
On Paleo Gardening, our mission is to make the paleo lifestyle available to anyone by inspiring and teaching practical skills. So we're wanting to teach them how to grow their own food because it's so much better and it makes it more affordable to be on this lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So how would you inspire someone who's just beginning on their paleo journey?
So in my practice now, we teach a therapeutic lifestyle class, and I spend a fair amount of time talking about how we make this affordable. So we talk about hunting here in Iowa, in the VA. Many folks are hunters and fishermen. So that message generally resonates fairly well. And if they aren't hunters themselves, they generally know people who are hunters. So that's an easy way to access grass-fed wild game meat that's eating, and then really not eating all that GMO corn. I assure you that the preferred stock, foodstuffs of the deer is browsing in the woodlands. They'll come out in the fall into the cornfields, but most of the summer is spent in the woodlands, not in the cornfields. I also talk a lot about the wild foods. If you quit spraying your yard and stop putting all these herbicides on the yard, you'll start getting a mix of broadleaf weeds, most of which are quite edible. So things like purslane, plantain, of course dandelion greens, curly dock, lamb's quarters, garlic mustard, which is an invasive species we need to eat aggressively because it's an escaped garden herb. So these are free as soon as you stop spraying your yard, or you can go to in these cities that are often in areas of food desert. Often those parts of many of our cities, the food desert is also filled with lot after lot after lot of abandoned property that is filled with edible weeds. So you could go eat the weeds. You have to get some foraging information, or you can build community gardens. And I'm very excited to see the number of communities that are building their community gardens and encouraging the urban farming movement. I talk about adding greens because they're the easiest to grow. Kale is like so easy. Mustard greens are so easy. And you can mix them in with your flowers. You can get a big pot, just put them on your deck or in some of these hanging containers, or you can put them in your windowsill. And there are some sites that explain how to take some of your garden scraps and resprout them and grow food again.